Now that's what I call a double-dipped identity. Here's a look at Mattel Master Universe Turtles of Grayskull 2-Bopsteady, two-headed mutant monstrosity. Accidents happen when you mess with mutagen. In the case of Bebop and Rocksteady, it can happen more than once. When Shredder's bickering lackeys crash into the ooze pit, they fuse together to form the massive, muscle-headed Tu-Bopsteady. I don't even know how they're going to make up their minds when they already had so very little to work with. Before we get a close look at the Turtles of Grayskull 2-Bopsteady, first let's grab the tape measure and let's see how tall the figures stand. I found this actually at a toy show of all places. I mean, I guess it would not be surprising to find a toy at a toy show, but finding a new toy like this was a relief to me because I was going to try to track one down online. A dealer here was selling one for $60, and I grabbed it right away. Tu-Bopsteady is going to stand at 6 inches in height, or the dual companions of Shredder are going to be about 15.5 centimeters tall. Speaking of the old Shredhead, here's what the figures look like along with him. Here's also what they look like with Krang. If that ball and chain looks nice on Krang's arm, get used to that, because Bebop has it as well. Let's also bring in another character, even though we don't have Tu-Bad yet, at least from the Origins line. We have Tu-Bad from the Filmation cartoon line. So you can see that they have a very similar style of split personality syndrome. This was also part of the Metal-Boto wave. It was weird the way that Mattel handled Metal-Boto because they split the lines so far from one another that when you were picking up a couple of figures, then you had to wait a while to get the remaining two. But we did get ourselves Mousejaw. Still think that's a stupid name. We also got as well Slacker. And here's also what they look like with Splinter. These three, now with, of course, Tu-Bopsteady, can finally complete Metal-Boto. Let's look at the less interesting things first. First, the figure does come included with a paper pamphlet. What's on the paper pamphlet, you may ask, please? Well, just the fact that you can swap out the heads for Tu-Bopsteady. So individually, you wanted to maybe use these heads and have separate versions, even though we don't really have separate bodies of Rocksteady and Bebop. You can do that. You can also take their arms off, and you can also remove their lower half. This entire paper pamphlet, I was going to say tossed. That doesn't really start necessarily with a P. Something else that also is probably going to get tossed, and I have honestly just thrown these out every single time, is you get yourself a little cardstock. Although I will say, though, this one's a little bit more interesting of artwork. It does have, again, Tu-Bopsteady here collaborating together. Turtles of Grayskull just above that. On the back of this, Mutagen Master Powers, Bebop has Punk Pork Powerhouse. Sorry. Warthog of the Wonton Mayhem. Rocksteady is Rhino ready to rampage. Puts the tusk in destruction. I don't know. It's not really quite tusk. And Tu-Bad Fusion, twice the power, twice the hatred for each other. I mean, really, that's the thing. Imagine working with somebody, you just hate them all day long, and then having to be merged together with them. Wouldn't that just be the worst? I would have liked, really, honestly, if these would be mini comics as opposed to just cardstock. Like, this is just like a cue card. But I mean, again, I'm going to hold on to this. This one at least has nice looking artwork. You've saved yourself from the life of the recycling bin. For now. For now. Let's move that off to the side. We do have, of course, the component pieces. This is how far along we've come with Metal-Boto. The shell, I'm not going to break down what characters came with what, but the only thing that was really missing was the lower feet and, of course, one arm. Now we have that. We get 2 boots, 2 metal feet here that came included with Tu-Bopsteady. So right away we can attach these onto the bombs. While I'm doing this, again, it was so... I guess it was sensible on Mattel's part that they kind of split out the 4 characters, that you didn't get them all right away. But, I mean, for the people that had to wait so long... And then on top of that, being that Tu-Bopsteady was a more expensive figure, at least for me. Finally, at least we got ourselves some feet, so that's progress. We've made some progress. Let's make further progress. He also comes included with the arm. So let's pop that in place. And now, for all intents and purposes, we have ourselves a functioning Metal-Boto that moves his mouth up and down. Now, of course, it doesn't just stop there. This is, by the way, how tall Metal-Boto is, along with Tu-Bopsteady. He's very back-heavy, by the way. They also come included with a couple of arm attachments, which I guess the idea in mind is you could take this arm off. I guess you would have to, what, are we taking the entire arm? No, I guess we wouldn't be. This arm, I guess, would just attach onto the back. I guess you really could just use the hand. Does the hand come? No, the hand doesn't come off. So it basically would just be an extra hand. What are we going to do with this extra hand? It could, I guess you could unplug it here. Would you unplug it up at the bicep? That just seems like a strange place to detach because the arm's going to be quite short. You know what I'll do? What I'll do is I'll just attach these in random places, and then, you know, later on I'll kind of just decide where I want to put things. So there's a peg obviously right here. There's a peg here, yeah. Nothing down below here in the lower legs. So we'll just attach the hand right there. Does it look out of place? It does look out of place, but it's going to have a place at least for right now. It also comes included with a flying saucer, a saucer dish, which the saucer, I don't know why, is such soft plastic. Why, Mattel? This could have easily been done with hard plastic, but I guess they wanted to save some cost that way. Would you save cost by producing a thinner plastic? I guess you would. That's just, we're going to right now attach that onto his arm. Does it look out of place? Of course it looks out of place. Also comes included with a drill attachment. I mean, I guess you could take really the hand off because the hand will also be replaced with the ball and chain for Rocksteady of the Bopsteady, you know, team up. But again, like you could use the drill for him. I'm just going to attach the drill. You know what? We have all these extra holes on the back of the body. And you also get this piece here too. Now I think this piece more relates to Rocksteady or Bebop than it does necessarily Metal-Boto. I think Metal-Boto, I mean, even though there are still holes to place things, stop that. I'm not going to probably put everything there just because, again, he's quite busy the way that he is right now. I'm not probably going to even do a full review of Metal-Boto, but at least you can see, like, that's a pretty cool Build-A-Figure. I don't feel robbed that I had to buy 4 separate figures in order to build this. Pretty neat. It's heavy, too. Like, there's a lot of good stuff going on here. But let's just move, though, Metal-Boto out of the way. And again, let's look at the accessories, though, that come include Tu-Bopsteady. So they get themselves a very large bladed sword. Despite having a little bit of marbling, perhaps, in the plastic, all in all, though, it's a nice-looking sword. It kind of matches somewhat the colors that they use for the gauntlets and as well for the belt. You can have that in Rocksteady's hand. I mean, you could also have it in Bebop's hand. Nothing has to say that it has to be specifically in this hand. But I'm probably going to end up swapping out the hand with the ball and chain. And most pictures tend to have Bebop, the one with the ball and chain. Of course, there is also a section on the back of the body. You can take the sword and house that in there as well. Although it is a little tight on quarters. There we go. Just have to kind of get it around this hook end of the sword. But there's a place at least to store that if you don't want to have it in the figure's hands. Speaking of hands, I suppose we have to kind of do away with one of them. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Rox. So sorry, Bebop. But the hand actually could be left on if you want to. But most pictures tend to have the images, at least of Bebop here, with the ball and chain. Now, you could take this extra piece that plugs just onto the end like this. Whoops. Let's not drop Tu-Bopsteady in the process. As I was saying, though, anyway, I probably should have not used moisturizer. And then you can take this piece and plug it onto, oh, maybe you can't do that. Let's plug this directly into the forearm. I guess we just actually have an extra piece. What am I going to do with this extra piece? Metal-Boto? We'll leave it for Metal-Boto later. Anyways, though, that's what the ball and chain looks like on Bebop. I keep wanting to call him Rocksteady, but I guess like it's not that wrong to say Rocksteady considering he's like literally right next door. The ball and chain, though, is the exact same ball and chain. I'm just going to put this figure down here for a second. I did mention this earlier. It happens to be the exact same ball and chain as Krang. Obviously, Krang's is done in more of a gunmetal finish. Tu-Bopsteady, his ball and chain has more of a blue chain, and then, of course, obviously the gold ball as opposed to this color ball. The figure itself, again, it's going to add a little bit more extra weight to it. You may choose for yourself just to leave it off and go with the hand instead. I kind of like the ball and chain. It just adds a little bit more attack power for Bopsteady. Of course, then have this sword in Rocksteady's hand. But maybe you know what I'll do. I'll leave this off for right now just because I know looking at the articulation on the character and spinning him around, I don't want to get whiplash or hit myself in the face with the ball and chain. Ouch! Instead, we'll leave it off for right now. Let's actually take the sword off the back of his body, too. Slide off. Just put that off to the side. From a sculpt standpoint, I mean, either one of them would work very well for standalone characters. I mean, like, obviously, if you had extra bodies, I mean, we don't really have a body I would think be the closest to a Rocksteady or a Bebop for that matter. But you could really take the heads off and just use them as separate figures if you wanted to. I don't think that one is any bit better than the other. Like, Rocksteady is a good-looking sculpt. I like the coloring that they gave for his... He has kind of this interesting-looking mohawk. He looks like the lead singer from Prodigy. And, of course, on this side, you've got a Bebop, obviously, with his singular mohawk. Still has, of course, that cool-looking glasses. Tusks. Would that be still tusks on a warthog on either side? Little chain there, a little ringlet there on the front of his nostrils. Normally, I would not recommend getting this close to beasts like this because the smell alone would be just foul. But I really like how they've split, obviously, their personas. One side, of course, you got the gray bodies here for Rocksteady. The other side, more the tan coloring for the Warthog Bebop. But again, like the colors work really well for the character. They have these little blades there on the front of their bandoliers. None of these are removable, by the way, but just a nice little additional silver finish that they've added. And even though he doesn't have it on both sides, he still has at least Bebop's trademark shell shoulder pads, at least one of them. So that's a nice little touch there too. Yeah, I mean, to look at the characters, you can clearly see what is represented by one and what is represented by the other. And even though they are technically sharing a vest between the two, really nice looking figures. A little bit of blue down below here for the knee pads. One regular, more metallic boot here for Bebop, and one for Rocksteady. I'm going to get it right. I promise I'm going to get it right. Different colored pants also as well. Slight different texturing also between the two. Yeah, it's a good looking figure. Now for the articulation, the only thing we're going to be doubling up here is the posability in the heads. Normally I would have only just said one head moves up, down, back and forth. You can technically rotate it all the way around. But because we're doing this now with two, both the heads, I mean, the only thing you're probably going to have, there's enough at least space in between the two that you could rotate them almost all the way around. But I don't feel like as I'm moving one is getting and fighting in the way with the other. You can see that they move pretty easily on their own. Of course, they share the exact same waist swivel. They have their own separate arms, and both of them hinge out. Bebop's is a little bit more hung up, even though technically the shoulder pad is something that's separate. You can move the arm out, and at least the shoulder pad kind of shimmies a little bit just to allow those arms to full hinge. Again, you can rotate them all the way around. You probably can't rotate, maybe a little bit more hung up though on Bebop's side. Still swivel on the arms, still a single hinge. That doesn't matter whether you look at this side or this side here. And the hands rotate all the way around. Legs split. You can bring them forward, you can bring them back, swivel at the top of the thigh, single hinge knee, swivel in the boot, hinge, and of course ankle pivot there as well. Nice figure. You know, again, like I was lucky enough to find this at a local toy convention, so I didn't have to worry about paying the shipping charges on top of already what would have been an expensive figure. I've seen this guy online for $65, $70. I ended up just paying that really at a local toy show. I didn't have to worry about the shipping charges either. They only had I think they had 2 of them on their table, and it was the only dealer that had them. I kind of did a circle around their table, and I kind of went around to other tables just to see if there was any other offers available. And no, that was the only dealer that had it. So I went back. Sure enough, they still had those 2, and I picked up. I only needed the one, obviously, but I'm glad finally now to have this guy in my collection. Of course, bringing back in Shredhead here. And even though I didn't really bring him in for comparisons earlier, here's what he also looks like with Hordak. Nice looking figure, Hordak. Yeah, Tu-Bopsteady. It's a character, obviously, that makes the most sense. I don't think you could have taken any other characters from the Turtles lore and spliced them together as well as Bebop and Rocksteady do. But the end result is a character that looks really neat. It only, again, is a reminder, unfortunately, to me, that we still don't have ourselves a Tu-Bad from the origins. We have one with the cartoon line. But I think if you weren't collecting the cartoon line in the first place, you're probably not at all interested to get that version of Tu-Bad. This fits really well. And again, I hate to kind of say this, like the Turtles of Grayskull, it still continues to be a line for me where I'm more interested in the bad guys than I am the good guys. Probably by what you've seen here on this channel, I've looked very little at the Turtles themselves and more to the bad guys. Another welcomed addition to the bad guys roster on my shelf, Tu-Bopsteady is a fantastic looking figure. Pamphlet. Paper pamphlet, not pamphlet, you dolt. Spinning Rocksteady, Spinning Bebop collab together with a pretty clever name, Tu-Bopsteady. A much better redeemed name than the poor job that Mattel came up with for Mousejaw. Mousejaw. I mean, I'm sure somebody at Mattel is saying, hey, listen, we really wanted to call this Mousetrap, but for legal reasons and somebody already owning the name of Mousetrap, we obviously couldn't use the name. Tu-Bopsteady definitely does come through, obviously telling us right away the 2 characters that had to be merged together to give us this mutation. Bopsteady, though, consisting of Bebop, obviously had to lose his hand in favor of a really cool melee weapon. Rocksteady, bragging rights, he still has his hand, and his hand is currently holding a really gnarly looking sword. This sword can be sheathed on the back of the figure's body, so there's a little bit of extra storage there at play. I like the colors. I like the mold of this character. I mean, if you're, again, going to take any characters from the Turtle universe and merge them together, Rocksteady and Bebop seemed a logical way of going. And again, it's so rather ironic, the fact that we're getting our Turtle of Grayskull collaboration of 2 characters before we actually get a Master Universe Origins version of Tu-Bad. Cartoon version was fine. I want an Origins version, though, of Tu-Bad. What do you guys think of Tu-Bopsteady? Let me know down below in the comment section. Don't like the name Tu-Bopsteady? Hey, that's you. Come up with a better name. What other name would you have called this character? let me know down below in the comment section. If, again, you guys did enjoy this video, do it a solid throw to like. You guys want to stick around for more? So I hope so. Hit that subscribe, turn on that bell. But the most important thing, of course, is that you're coming back. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.